Are you contemplating the KX508MS by Cort? A crazy affordable 8-string guitar? Well, make sure you watch this review first, yeah? Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Liam Taylor Guitar, where I, musician and music educator Liam Taylor, share my musical journey as it happens. Recently, I acquired this, the KX508MS by Cort, a 8-string guitar, my first extended range guitar, so naturally I wanted to share my thoughts with all of you in this review. I'm going to go over the instrument specs. I'm going to talk a little bit about 8-string guitars in general, not a lot, but a little bit, and then I'll give some positive feedback and some critiques. And yes, there are some critiques. We'll get to those last. I'll also be throwing in audio samples of the guitar, both clean and distorted, throughout the video, so you get to hear what it sounds like. But first, remember to subscribe to Liam Taylor Guitar if you want to see new videos every week, including gear reviews like this, musical experiments, music theory stuff, professional music industry advice, and composition live streams. Let's begin with the guitar specifications, most of which is pulled off of CortGuitars.com. The KX508MS is currently retailing for just under £800. It's a 24-fret multi-scale neck with a double cutaway body for high fret access. Hardware is black nickel, black like my soul. The wood is a lightweight swamp ash, and the paint job is this fantastic mottled blue-green finish with a little yellow in the center. Cort's press images kind of imply that it's glossy, but it's not, as you can see. Well, it's a little bit shiny because of the studio lights, but it's basically matte, which I much prefer. The neck is 5-piece maple and purple heart, which is strong and resilient. Pickups are Fishman's Fluence modern humbucker set. You've got a 3-way pickup selector which operates similarly to any standard Les Paul. You can select between bridge, neck, and both pickups. You've got 2 pots, one for volume and the other for tone. These are both push-pull pots, the first of which activates a coil tap for that single coil sound, and the second swaps between a more classic passive humbucker sound. Each string has an independent hardtail bridge which is intended to improve sustain and allows for greater string separation and articulation when you're playing. The fanned fretboard basically gives you 2 scale lengths at once. The higher strings are a 26.5-inch scale, the idea being that you can do all of the lead stuff you'd normally expect to do on the higher strings, whilst the low strings are a 28-inch scale. You've got locking tuners on the headstock. The truss rod is accessible through this gap here above the neck pickup for easy adjustment, and it comes with a set of D'Addario strings, which is a nice bonus. That's all the specifications, so let's briefly talk about 8-string guitars in general. I think I'll have to do another video about extended range guitars or 8-string guitars, because there's an awful lot to talk about, especially if you've not played one of these before. But I'm conscious that you're watching this video for specific information on this instrument, so we'll keep this short. So firstly, a note on tuning. The high 6 strings are what you'd normally have on an electric guitar, E, A, D, G, B, E. The convention for 7-string guitars is to have your new low 7th string tuned to a B to reflect the B and E in the higher register. That being the case, you might expect this new 8th string to reflect the higher registers of the guitar as well, so you'd have G, B, E, A, D, G, B, E, but actually this is tuned to F sharp, or at least my one currently is. So that's F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, B, E. 8-string guitars are still kind of new in the grand scheme of things, so conventions like guitar tuning haven't really been worked out. I think most people agree that it's F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, B, E, but really, it's up to you. If you want to try G, go for G. Now I want to talk briefly about the fanned fretboard and the size of the neck. This isn't really a critique because it's sort of necessary to the construction of 8-string guitars, but I wasn't expecting that combining the neck size, which is a lot bigger, it feels a lot bigger, combining that with the fanned frets means that all of the open chords, the really basic stuff and the upper the upper register triads that you can do on a 6-string guitar, you have to relearn on here because the strings, they're just not spaced in the same way. If I try and fall into a D or a G or a C add 9, I really struggle. You have got to relearn those very basic things, or just accept that maybe you don't do open chords on this guitar because you have to relearn them basically. So let's talk about some of the positive things that really surprised me with this guitar. Now, I've played Cort for something like 11, 12 years. I know they make good quality but super affordable guitars, and I know what to expect from them. So when I knew that this would be £800, I sort of knew what I'd be getting. 8-string guitars can sell for an awful lot more than £800, but if you're like me and you want it as an option, something to have in your utility belt of music creation and guitar playing, and you're not going to build a career off of playing 8-string guitar, at least you don't plan to, this could very well be the only 8-string guitar you ever buy. I mentioned the lightweight Swamp Ash body earlier, and I want to stress that it is really light. The size of the neck and just the size of it implies it's going to be super heavy to carry, but it's really not bad at all. I don't think it weighs anything more than like a standard Les Paul does, and you've got 2 more strings, you know? I was also worried it might be neck heavy as well, and sort of like a Gibson SG, if you put it around you, it sort of slopes downwards. Doesn't happen. It basically stays where you put it, which is really handy. I really like this guitar. I've played more guitar in the last month since buying this than I have in probably quite a few years, actually. It's really inspired me to try new things and really tame it, you know, really work out what I can do with it and push the limits of what I can do with it. Going back to 6 strings, having played this one for nearly a month solid, feels really bizarre, so I'd encourage you to swap back and forth unless you literally only ever want to play 8-string guitars from now on. That's your call, do whatever. Yeah, just try not to get entirely used to one or the other. Couple critiques now before I summarize. The main critique I have is the volume pot. The pots on here are they're not loose, they're just very fluid, like you only have to touch them slightly to get them moving. And the problem is, sometimes when I'm picking, I can notice that I'm just accidentally nudging my volume pot down until my guitar stops making any sound, which is awkward. It's happened, I think, 2 or 3 times, and I can't really work out the pattern to it. It must be something to do with how I'm sitting or where I'm placing my hand, but I really feel like that's the kind of thing that, well, honestly, I feel like it's the kind of thing that's a design flaw, and if anyone else had this problem, it would have come up in product testing. So I'm just going to assume that it's just me this happens to, hopefully, anyway. But yeah, it is a little annoying. But luckily it's only happened a couple times, so I just need to work out what that pattern is. Maybe that's more of a me critique than a guitar critique though, I don't know. My second issue is with the headstock. If you look up here behind the nut, we've got the wood from the neck, and I just really feel like this whole block here should be the blue-green pattern. Why have we got this lump of wood? I don't really understand. It's an aesthetic thing, but like guitars are like 80% what they look like, right? So maybe it doesn't bother me a lot. It might bother you a lot. It just feels like a weird design choice, you know? So to summarize, a lot of people are referring to the KX508MS by Cort as a great entry-level extended range guitar, but for me, it's probably the only one I'll ever need to buy, realistically speaking. I think actually I'd be comfortable paying a little bit more than £800 for this, but that could be because I'm used to other brands like inflating their worth so significantly. So yeah, I guess £800 feels about right. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that an extended range guitar like this is exclusively for metal or gent or extreme hardcore whatever, but it's not. I've written some really cool kind of jazzy stuff on this, and in terms of funk, like the extra 2 strings open up just a myriad of options, being able to swap between the kind of bass style pops and slaps on the low strings and then the normal funk shapes up top. It's, yeah, there's a lot you can do with it, but also you can do metal as well, which is good. All in all, good job, Cort. Thanks for watching, ladies and gents. I'm so glad I could bring you this review, and I'm so glad to have the KX508MS in my arsenal now. Please leave comments in the comment section below, that's what it's for. Let me know your impressions on this guitar, and subscribe if you want more videos like this every week, and I will see you on Monday for the composition live stream. Toodaloo.